Well, hey everyone! I thought I'd come out here for a few minutes and show you my beautiful blue skies. Yeah, I think it's like fixing to rain, and all my mourning doves flew up in the tree. Oh well, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I did want to come out and share some encouragement, as this is not our home. We're just passing through, and well, the state of the condition of the world right now is upside down, inside out, and every which way but loose. Okay, but God, remember, there is a but God in all of this. So I wanted to share that the other day I had heard a word in my spirit that I had no clue. It was something like Gilead or Gillian. I didn't know what it was, and I promised that Daddy must think I'm his worst child ever. It's like, I know he's got a great sense of humor putting up with me, but still, I'm like, Lord, what are you saying, Daddy? He told me something here. Again, I heard it. So I started going fishing on YouTube, and actually, I didn't have to fish for very long because right there was a video called the Gillian Wedding. I'm like, oh my goodness. All right, well, let's listen to this. No, honest, I didn't know anything about this, and my goodness, what an amazing story. So I couldn't keep it to myself. I had to share because it's not your traditional type of wedding that we know of. As we have been, worldified. That's a new word. I just made that up. All right, so we're in it, not of it. I know. Nothing's going to change my mind about a pre-trib rapture. And that's at any moment. It's imminent. Okay, so I probably listened to this video so many times. So many things and so many scriptures were popping into my head. And I'm like, wow, this is truly amazing. So first of all, the Song of Solomon was probably my hardest book in the whole Bible. Even though I just knew it was, oh my goodness, just an amazing love letter. It was truly a love letter. Knowing now, it was from the father to the bride, okay? Or from the groom to the bride. We know now that Titus 2:13, our blessed hope, right? And our soon coming bridegroom. Absolutely. And we say Maranatha all the time, where the Spirit and the bride say, come. All right, let's put that all together. Connecting dots has been all right, and occupying. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a little bit of a breakdown about this because I found it just truly amazing. They still sort of practice this in a certain place in Israel now, but most of it, of course, has been, westernized or, changed. Okay, let's just say changed. Your traditional Jewish wedding, we've been over that several times, and this is just a little bit different. Well, actually, it's a whole lot different, but it's the one that we need to focus on right now because this is what's about to happen. So I'm just going to give you a quick little gist about it all. As I, was reading or listening to this, it was talking about how, these are the ones that walked with Jesus, right? The Sea of Galilee and, things like that. So these are the ones that all love Jesus. And, Jesus remarked many times in the Word that, only those that understand a Galilean wedding will understand. All right, well, understand. Okay, help us to understand, Lord, yes. Right. The peace of God that surpasses all understanding, yes. Okay, so, oh no, I see something right over there. Is that a cardinal? I can't see right now. It is a cardinal. Thank you for coming. Okay, let me zoom in here for a second. Sorry. Oh. Look at that. Just in time. All right. That's my Jesus bird. Okay, so, all right, see? Distractions that can make you lose traction. And you know that Cardinal does that for me all the time. I got goosies everywhere now. Okay. So, you know, the Bible, we've only had for 400 years. So they didn't have a Bible. And of course, I had no clocks back then. Um, they actually barely had any food. I mean, they were kind of peasants, you know. They probably didn't eat for a couple days even, and were used to bartering, um, you know, just to help one another. But yet, you know, they followed Jesus wherever he went, and they understood everything that he said. So they had a lot of time and spent a lot of time with Daddy in the flesh. So what they would do in these kind of weddings that I'm about ready to talk about is it's a little bit different and quite backwards from what we know of. I think I said that already, but of a traditional wedding and or even of a Jewish wedding that we know of. So we know the traditional wedding and the vows, and you know there's always got to be a certain order. And I promise, weddings or creating a wedding is probably more chaos than anything, and most people wish they had eloped anyways. Well, it's not anything about that because this is totally different. All right, so back then, and what they would do is, of course, if you know somebody had a son or a daughter, and they were out, or just an example, like playing at the playground, and a man had a son, and he would say, you know, look around and see this beautiful little girl who was laughing and looked healthy and was pretty, or things like this. He would think, you know, oh, wow, I think she would make a wonderful wife for my son. Wow, so even like 3 and 4 years old, they were thinking about these things, right? Because back then it was all about growing a family. It was about, you know, possessions. You know, what was important was food and animals and things like that. That's what made you rich. And, you know, some people would have some things and some people would have another. All right? So together they were stronger. And that's why they lived together. All right? If you even go to Israel today, nowadays, they're kind of like living on top of each other. Not just because there's not much space, but also because it's safer. Don't forget, you know, living out in the country back there or over there would be very dangerous, especially being alone. And they even have walls up, and some people have had tours of some of these older homes and that they did, and have walls around them and like an atrium where they could all come together and eat and pray and things like this, right? It's way cool. So the custom back then was they would, like I said, dads would pick the kids out for their kids way before it was time. Because after all, they do have bar mitzvahs and stuff at 13 anyways, where they're considered of age, right? Okay, so after a while, you know, the dad would consider this and then have somebody run over to the little girl's house and say, hey, we're having a feast and we're inviting you over. And back in those times, as I said, they didn't have any clocks or any commitments at home, so they could drop everything and go feast. Absolutely. Free food, right? Okay. So, and this could last for days. Like feasts then, no commitments, right? No clocks, no commitments at all. To be anywhere at a certain time, this could last for days and weeks even. So, after all the small talk and everything, and after that, the two fathers would sit down, and the other dad would let him know about, you know, what he thought and how his daughter would make a great wife for his son. And therefore, then what they would do is they would sit down and say, okay, They would write out like some kind of a contract. They were writing things out about, what she would get, in some cases that we know of in the Jewish wedding, they're called dowries or whatever, and that includes a lot of money, but we're talking about peasants and people that were poor, more than normal. So, animals could have been something in the making or whatever, and or if there was a trade that one of them had, for the other, things like that could have been parted with. But things were so precise that they were even make a contract on, how many children are they going to have and what sex. Okay, try to figure it out now, right? All right, so, but this was different. This was not just your normal wedding, all right? Not a Western normal wedding anyways, all right? So, after they did this, they also didn't have any printers or anything like this, and or many people couldn't write or read. You had to go listen to somebody read you the word when they got it, and or read you a story about Jesus if they had it. But they would have to find somebody to come out and write down everything that was agreed upon and actually make a duplicate copy, letter by letter, for the other person. So each one would have a copy of it, in which case also, this was a contract. This was something that was being made, and this contract had to be fulfilled and not broken, except for, there is always a but God, okay, always, and there's always a way out. So, what would happen is that, after this, coming across the years and things like this, later on in life, the families would get together, and also what they would do, they would be having something and have another party, and then they would call it something where, like I said, I'm just going to fly through it, so I'm not going to mention things perfectly. Feel free to add anything to the comment section below. They would have another party, and back then, they would use like real wine for for certain religious situations, and but most of the time it was watered down. But they also use it for sterilization, like when you went to drink water at somebody's house, if it had a trace of wine in the glass, then you knew that it was clean. All right, so that's how they clean things as well. So there would be a cup of wine, and what would happen is the male, the groom-to-be, would walk up to the young lady and hand her the glass of wine. Now, even though there was a contract made, contracts can't be broken, right? This is the only time that the contract could have been broken. If she had decided that she did not want to be his wife, she did not have to take the cup of wine that was passed to her. But then again, you gotta figure there was probably a lot of fighting and stuff going on by then, because a lot of time and money and planning had been done during this time. So when she would take the cup and take a sip, she would hand it back to her groom-to-be, and he would take a sip. Therefore, what it would do was, believe this or not, consummate the marriage. They were then legally married, but what would happen is it would take a year before they could live together as man and wife. During that year, the bride had to go off and make a wedding dress, and probably, all the caravans that came through town, she had to pick up the finest pieces of cloth or whatever. So sometimes these traditional white gowns weren't white. They were actually all kinds of different colors, and according to their prestige, whether or not they had real jewels or not, hanging off top of everything, it was quite a sight. And they would dance all the time and sing all the time. And wow, this was amazing. So that was the bride's job to do, was to go to make her wedding dress and her veil and everything for that. And what the groom had to do was he had a bigger job. He had a year to go ahead and, we've heard the scripture, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would not tell you. Therefore I go and prepare a place for you. Okay, but was in his Father's house that he would have to make a room for them. Okay, so in the scripture, in my Father's house means maison, which means in French a room. All right, so he had to go make her a room inside his Father's house. That would be perfect for her. And also prepare dry goods, that he could early, and then closer to the festivities and the time to get married, he would start getting the other stuff. And then there was also times when, people were of prestige. They were able to go out and buy fine linens for all of the guests. So that would be going for the scripture, about the fine linens that they were given. And of course, we know that it's Jesus who made us righteous, right? Because their gowns weren't white and or without spot or wrinkle. But they learned that at Pentecost, all right? They're still screaming at Jesus all the way up. When are you coming back, right? Is it now? Are we there yet, Daddy? All right? Okay, so as he's planning this, and it gets all done, and he's all excited, and the bride's out there, and the bridesmaid, we know, if we can consider the 10 virgins, right? We should be her bridesmaid. They were there to help her, to prep with her, to spend time with her. And they all slept together and waited, because there was signs all along the way that they knew. They had to know that year had almost passed, that it was going to be time, any time, for the bridegroom to come. So they had to be ready. So even though Dad would approve of the room or everything, the groom-to-be would say, Dad, can I go get her now? And he'd say, no, not yet, son. Until the day that he would knock on the young man's door, and he would scream, go get your son. Oh my goodness. Then the party started already. He would jump out of bed, blow the shofars, wake up all the groomsmen. It's time to go. It's time to go. We got a wedding to go to. We got to go pick up the bride. And of course, the bride, hearing all this calamity outside, knew that her bridegroom was on the way. Wow. So then that's when all the bridesmaids would jump up and, of course, make everything perfect on her and get ready. And there were gifts exchanged right before as well, before the wedding. And, a gift is a gift. If they had no money and they didn't have very much, it didn't matter what they got. It had nothing to do with love. This was not about love. This was all about growing families. All right? Back in those days. Today, it's like too easy. People get married, and it's all about love, right? And what happens when they fall out of love? Well, when the marriage is over, right? Because there was no contract made like the one that Jesus made with us. A final atonement for sin. The contract that he made. That he would never leave us or forsake us. Ever. He won't. He couldn't. He made a contract with us, y'all. Isn't this amazing? Well, so a contract is awesome. So when they went to pick up the bride, they would bring her, and they had the things that the hooplas or whatever that they used to use. They carried her around on that, and then what would happen is they would exchange their vows or whatever, not in the traditional vows that we know of, except for the very last part, where he would say, "Until death do we part." Also, what the groom used to say to the bride, "In my Father's house are many mansions. I went and I prepared a place for you, and I told you I would be coming back for you." Well, that kind of sounds like a familiar scripture, right? And there they would go into the wedding chamber and consummate their marriage for 7 days. And the party would go on for a really long time after that. Now, also one of the stipulations about having all the fine linens, right, for the wedding was also to keep, people out that you didn't want in, right? And I guess we get that scripture in Revelation about how, I'm sorry, I'm distracted. Blowing my cardinal. Where, Dora, thank you, Posse. Sorry, I got distracted. All right, so that's where, this all takes place. So I'll leave a video if you want to go search out your own video about a Gilead wedding and just the way they did things. But the point of it is it was sealed. It was a covenant. It was a contract. Jesus made a covenant with us, all right? He's made that covenant. He's not going to break it. We made a covenant with him when we said yes. The old man passed away. Now, there was also pools I forgot to leave out here, or do. I apologize. There were pools, and they're finding them everywhere now as they're digging up excavation, especially around Jerusalem, where they would feel that they would be cleansed, all right? And they would go and they would cleanse themselves in these pools all the time. There was also a time I thought that this was just amazing on how, of course, they do believe that birth starts right at conception, yet you can't sin those whole 9 months because you don't have an opportunity to sin. So there's many times that before they go into this pool, they would pray, "Oh, Father, help me to be like I was the day before I was born," right? Pure, holy unto you. They really want to be holy unto the Lord. I call the Mourning Dove like my story. No. But anyways, I'm thinking about that kind of wedding, how we need to think on things above. There's also a really good movie out, by the way. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. It's called Before the Wrath. I found it on YouTube and I found it on Amazon Prime, but you gotta pay for it. I think there are other streams that you can go ahead and get that from. My goodness, it's a weird looking plane coming in from a different direction too. I don't know, I've had these crazy things up in the sky for the past couple of days, including this weather. But whatever happens, God is in control. Faith, right? It's all about faith. He's looking for faith when he returns. Yes, he is. We find faith. You have faith. Absolutely, the size of a mustard seed. So seriously, if you have anything to add about that wedding, I'll leave some videos for you in the description box, of course. And then, of course, if you get a chance, watch the movie Before the Wrath. I've seen a lot of trailers on it. It looks pretty interesting, actually. And we can go over some more about this Gillian Wedding, or Gilead. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I just know I heard the word. That's okay. I'll go, Lord, wherever you want. Send me. I'm here. Here we go. All right, so while the squirrels over there playing hide and seek with Molly and Dora, right? I'll just say, hey, everybody, let's look up, because surely we are about to marry the man of our dreams. It has everything to do with the love of God that surpasses all understanding, as well as His peace and His joy. It all surpasses all understanding. Unless you have the ears to hear and the eyes to see, you can't understand the words, right? Or understand what it's all about. But you can believe on Jesus for everything. He's not going to leave us ever. Peace out from Texas. This is Debbie. Let's keep looking up as the Spirit and the bride say, come, Maranatha. And peace out from Texas. Jesus is coming.